Hello, it's Blue Orange 22. So today I have an interview. Um, this is a 19-year-old woman from the US, and we met in a men's rights Zoom. And she's going to talk about her experiences in high school in the US and some of the things that she noticed that happened between men and women, or really boys and girls, because this is about teenagers. And when we were talking about the things that she saw, I honestly couldn't believe it. And some of the things she said were quite shocking and quite scary. Now, she does not want to reveal her name or location. She is going to be referred to as Women for Men. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hello,
Hi.
my name for now is Women from M, or WFM for short, as seen on the screen. I am, as you said, a 19-year-old who has seen a lot of experiences with men being mistreated in both high school and college.
And you were saying that this is something that you and other people notice, but you feel kind of too afraid to talk publicly about it.
It's really hard to talk publicly about it because people will just instantly attack you for reasons, and on top of that, many schools are willing to reject people now today. They won't admit it, but they are willing to reject people from their schools based on their opinions if it disagrees with that school.
Right. Yeah. And is this something that you think a lot of people are thinking about? Is this like a common viewpoint, or people are kind of aware of this kind of stuff, but they don't talk about it and they kind of keep it secret?
I think up until the last, I would say, couple of years, 3 to 4 years, it was well held under wraps by the schools, high schools, colleges, other places that it occurred. And then these last 3 to 4 years, a lot more people started finding out about because a lot more of these actions happened in public and where people could see it. And then people would wonder what happened to that person. They would find out about the terrible things in the system, and they've become more aware about it. And they try talking about where they can, but they tend to talk about it quietly or in secret.
So there were two things that you mentioned that I want to focus on. One of them was domestic violence, and one of them was false accusations of sexual assault. And the things you were telling me basically indicated that these things happen a lot. And this is a very common thing that happens in high schools today.
Yeah, domestic violence is quite literally a daily thing.
Okay, so
And
let's start with that. So you say domestic violence, and this is against boys, is a daily thing.
yes,
So talk about that a bit.
um, especially high school and college relationships, they're very young relationships. And so a lot of people end up in these relationships, or they will have like friends who are very close to them, and they'll hit each other and they'll think it's okay. There are a lot of girls who like beat their boyfriends over very small things and think it's absolutely fine. There are kids who you will see get beat up practically in front of your classroom, but it'll be considered okay because it is the girl beating the man, not the man beating her.
You told me something where you saw a girl beating her boyfriend, and she was basically being cheered on, like applauded for it, like supported for it.
Yeah, so this situation was this girl, her boyfriend, and her best friend, and a couple of girls that happened to just show up in that hallway. And they were in front of my classroom at that time. And he was handing her a gift. And she had gone upset that it wasn't the gift she wanted. And she started practically beating him with the gift he had just bought her. And her friend was like, go get him.
Oh my God.
She
So
was cheering him on. She was like, teach him that, he has to treat you right.
wait, so she was saying you had to treat her right as she was beating him. So there was no awareness that maybe beating him is not treating him right?
No, not all.
and it's because he got her the wrong gift.
Yeah.
So he wasn't being aggressive or violent. He didn't do anything offensive. He bought her a gift, and it wasn't the gift she wanted. So she started beating him physically in the hallway in front of other people.
Yeah.
And other people were supporting it and kind of cheering it on.
Yes.
And so, what were the guys? Were there other people around, like other students?
Um, there were a few other students, not many, because it was almost time for the bell to ring to start class. So I'd say about a good 5 or 6
Okay,
left in the hallway.
okay. And what was the reaction from people? Like, how did they when they saw it? Did they say anything? Did they look? Did they do anything?
A lot of the girls, which made a majority of the few people left in the hallway, sort of just stared and walked by or joined in on the cheering or just paid no attention to it and went to class. Some of the guys had a mixed review where some of them said this isn't right, but they didn't want to do anything because they didn't want to get in a situation. Some of them said it was his fault. He probably messed up somehow looking at another girl or something. And
So some of the other girls were cheering it on.
yeah.
And do you feel like that's kind of a common sentiment? Like, if people see a girl being physical with her boyfriends, it's considered something that's funny or acceptable or something that people like to see?
It tends to be considered acceptable for the most part. I don't really know why, but they consider it that it's acceptable for a girl to like beat a guy a bit, whether it's joking fun or actually serious, more than is for a man to ever hit a woman, no matter what the reason is.
I was going to ask, so obviously, if it's the other way around, it would never be accepted.
Never
Now,
at all.
what if a woman is like really beating a man like really hard and he's getting hurt and his face is getting hit and he's getting bruises and he's maybe his nose is bleeding and he kind of hits back to make her stop. How would people react, do you think?
Um, I think people then would probably go in and stop it for the most part. They would try to get her off of him. I think they still have a sense of rationality where enough's enough, but for the most part, they will let it get to that point at times because they won't know where enough is enough
Right.
until they see actual blood coming. They're like, oh no.
And is seeing actual blood something that's happened before? Like, have you seen that happen? Like when you were in high school, was that a thing that happens where a guy would actually get beaten to the point of bleeding?
I haven't seen it yet, though I have heard of those occasions happening before in popular places outside of the school
Okay.
where students group up.
And when people talked about it, were they like laughing about it? Were they against it? What was the basic reaction to those kinds of stories?
There were a lot of people who said, well, it was horrible, it didn't look great. And there were some people that were like, he got his ass handed to him by a female. And there were others that were just like, wow, did you see that fight?
Right. And it's like when it happens to a man, people don't really treat it like it was domestic violence. It's a sort of a weird thing that happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, how normal would you say it is, at least in your experience, when a guy starts dating a girl? Would it almost be expected or like normal that she might be violent? Like, is this usual or is this like a minority of relationships or is this like the norm? What would
This
you?
is sort of the normal for a girl to be even just a tad bit violent in the relationship.
So, most of the time.
Yeah.
And do you ever hear guys talking about it with each other? Like, hey, it shouldn't be like this, or why is it like this? Or,
Some guys do talk about it, but not a lot of them. Some of them just knock it off. For the most part, a lot of them will like briefly talk about and then never bring it up again.
right? Because basically, like, it seems normal to them. And they're like supposed to accept. I mean, do you think they feel like they're not supposed to talk about it, or it's supposed to be the new normal thing. Because like I'm 26, and so I was in high school 10 years ago, and this kind of stuff never happens. So when I hear about this, it seems totally crazy. So when you're telling me this is like normal and this happens a lot, it's almost like this is the new normal, and this is like the new way that it's supposed to be. And so when people see this happening, they don't even really think of it as a strange thing. Like it's expected, like it's a normal thing, like it's how it's supposed to be. Does it
Yeah.
feel like that?
It feels like it. I think it's just because somehow we've normalized that violence is okay to use to joke around a lot. And so then girls will do it consistently every day to their boyfriends.
I've seen some of these TikTok videos of girlfriends hitting their boyfriends, and I can never quite tell if they're a joke or staged or if it's real. Have you seen any of those kind of videos?
I've seen a couple.
And would you say that like that's like real life, that's what happens, or is that just kind of like staged, or what do you think?
I think some of them look safe, but for the most part, if you did go to high school in real life and you were like with that couple for like a day, you would see it at least the guy get hit maybe once by his girlfriend.
So that does happen in real life, like on a regular day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Girls will like stop their boyfriend across the street and be like, oh my God, look at your face. It's hilarious. Ha ha ha.
And they would laugh at it.
Hmm.
And do you think most girls that see that or their friends, would they find it funny too? Like would they join in laughing, or would they kind of not like it or not say anything, or
I would say a decent amount of them would probably join in on laughter.
okay, wow.
Or they'd be like, oh my God, she got you.
And it's kind of presented as if it's like a funny thing, like as if it's like a game,
Yeah.
rather than actual domestic violence or domestic abuse.
Hmm.
And so the guys kind of think, well, this is supposed to be funny or a game, so we just kind of take it and that's just how it is.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty awful. I mean, that sounds so different from what I'm used to. I mean, back when I was in high school, if a girl hit her boyfriend in the face, he would break up on the spot. Like nobody would like that. Nobody would find that funny.
I think I think it's because they've become a lot more hurtful in the years. And I'm just saying that from experience, from the amount of friends I have. I currently, and this has been hard for me, I have a friend who's been so close to me for years. I've now lost him because he started dating this really abusive girlfriend. And she came with our group and she started harassing the literal living daylights out of myself, my best friend, and our other friend, and a male friends of our his girlfriend who hangs out with us. And she thought that was okay. And so we stopped hanging out with her. I stopped being friends with her. And she's the day we told her we weren't gonna be friends anymore, she was like beating him. She was like punching his stomach because she was trying to get her anger out for me upset that we just wanted to stop being friends with her. And he's still with her, and I don't understand why. But
Because
he says he's happy all
maybe,
the time.
I mean, he maybe feels that he's supposed to feel that way. That's the way. I mean, how old is this friend roughly?
Uh he's 18 currently. He'll be 19 around springtime.
So maybe this is all he's ever seen. Like this is since he was like 13, 14 years old, this was the normal for him. And so that's what he thinks is normal.
Most likely the case. That's the case with a lot of guys. They think that this is normal and stuff, and that, well, as long as she loves you, it doesn't matter how much she hits you.
And that's something you hear a lot, like girls hit on their boyfriends. Is like that normal? It's like it's just expected. This is the way it is. That's just like because it's just to me it's just crazy. Like if that happens, it's not even really thought about. Like it's not even considered like like a big deal or a deal at all. It's just the way it is. That's the new normal. Like is that really how bad it is now?
Yeah. I remember the kids I was talking about with the girl. I was in a class, and teachers, instead of going out to help, she didn't, thankfully bad enough that he was like bleeding or bruised, but she made him pretty bad, and teachers just started closing the door. instead of going out to stop it.
Just closing the door to like to not see it, kind of keep it away. Like they just basically close the door to like, okay, this isn't happening. Let's ignore this. Let's not acknowledge this.